Welcome to Shorty Supercoach, and today we're going to take a look at all the relevant forwards. What do I mean by relevant? If they're in at least 2% of sides. Some bastard out there's thinking about them, so I'm going to talk about them. So, it's probably a good chance for me to just offer my 2 cents worth. Some blokes will have a couple of lines, some blokes a few more, but hopefully it allows me in one video to give my opinion on pretty much every relevant player in the game. So, I'm going to get stuck into that. I'm probably, as I upload this, as you can see, I'm filming it just in the morning on Wednesday, and well, by the time this is posted, I'm probably going live. I'm probably answering your questions, so looking forward to that. We've probably got some teams out in terms of the season opener, which is, I don't know, I'm pumped, but I also kind of can't believe it in a weird way. Like, I'm just so excited for it, but it's hard to kind of believe that we've got footy back and we're going to hear the actual roar of the crowd, and I just cannot wait for that. So, and there's a little bit of Supercoach nerves as well after all this pre-season. It's kind of fun to just tinker and jostle a few things around and think of certain ideas that may or may not work. Well, now we're going to have things that actually go wrong. We're going to have selections that didn't work out, and we're going to be forced to make some actual considerations that are final. So it's going to be tough. I'm nervous about this back line in terms of the rookies. I just don't know how many we're going to get. I mean, if Briggs is going to play, I'm not sure now that Flinny's playing. I've actually got, as you'll see there, Sam De Koning from the Cats. I am crossing my fingers just in the hope that he might get a game. And maybe Harry Sharp can, I don't know. Maybe him or Eli Smith. We'll have to wait and see. But that's a video for another day, really. So let's jump into the forwards. We will start at the top with the premiums and work our way down. We won't discuss rookies because I've sort of already done that, and I think we've covered off on the rookies, and I just want to sort of keep this one to your actual established players. So, yeah, let's get stuck into it. Paddy Dangerfield, 49% of sides. As you can see, he's in my team as well, and I think he is an absolute must-have. He was in my must-have videos. I think the fact that the only concern I had coming into the preseason was whether he was fit. There's a lot of talk whether he'd be right for round one. He's going to be right for round one. He's looked good in the pracky games. And the fact that Geelong's going to play in pure mid makes him an absolute lock, in my opinion. The fact that we have such a struggle trying to find premiums in the forward line, when you've got a guy who's done it so many times before, you've just got to get him. Sidebottom, he's an upgrade target now. I was already, talking him down. I wasn't on board. I didn't like the price. I had mentioned the calf previously, and it did bring him undone in the pre-season. So a few people may have dodged a bullet there, but he'll be an upgrade target. We'll definitely need him at some stage. Tommy Hawkins, fantastic player, arguably Geelong's most valuable player, but not one for Supercoach. I think the fact is that he's a superstar and he's capable of averaging 100, but just the effect of Jeremy Cameron coming into the team, and there's just some other guys that surely we would preference ahead of him, and I think the stats are sort of suggesting that you just can't start with Tommy, unfortunately, and never know, if he catches fire we might jump on board, but I dare say we probably won't see him feature too much in Supercoach this year. Josh Dunkley, now it's been well recognised that I'm not a fan of his starting selection. I'm a massive fan of Dunkley in general, but need I harp on it? But maybe for those who haven't watched all my videos or recent ones, I'm steering clear of doggies mids. You got Treloar, you got Bont, you got Libba, you got Hunter, you got Smith. I probably missed one when I was just reeling off names randomly. So, did I even say McRae? You know what I mean? There's a lot happening in there, and for that reason, there'll be days where Dunkley scores, 140, 29 touches, 10 tackles, kicks a goal, but I'm confident there will be days where he does play on a flank and he gets 19 touches and kicks a goal, and he still scores 84. It's not a disaster, but I am just hoping that we get a run of 3 or 4 weeks where he just averages, about 90, and I can pick him up on the cheaper. So that's my thought behind him. Rowan Marshall, like Sidebottom, he is now an upgrade target given his injury. Dustin Martin, I feel like, is the other lock, and the ownership percentage sort of reflects that. I think in the forward lines we're just screaming out for any sort of stability, reliability, and Martin and Dangerfield provide that, in my opinion. I actually think Martin offers a smidgen of value, actually. I mean, I think he'll average over 100. And, for that reason, I see his numbers going up. And, he's not a bargain, but I reckon you might just be saving 20 or 30K, the little wins. But Michael Walters in 2% of teams. Wasn't a massive fan of him to start with, given the forward and midfield split that we're sort of hearing out of the Dockers. But the fact that he had a little injury concern, I think he might even be out, or at least in serious doubt for round 1. I'd have to check. But nonetheless, he's injury prone at the best of times, so we just can't start with him. And Zorko is a really interesting one for mine. Well, probably the interesting thing for me is that he's in 10% of teams. I am not about it at all. I know we've seen him be a great SuperCoach option for us over the journey, but maybe the fact that Rayner goes down, does that change things at all? But I still think they're probably going to preference the likes of, Zach Bailey and sort of some next generation types. I'd normally say Rayner, but look, all the talk is that Zorko's going to play a little bit more forward. And hey, if after 4 rounds he's playing mid, no Rayner, we need Zorko in there one more time, fair enough. I might jump on board, but I don't want to start with him. Dixon in 2% of sides, no need for that. He might win the Coleman, but there's no need to start him in our SuperCoach sides. Robbie Gray, same can be said. He's just going to start to play more and more minutes forward and probably deeper and deeper, with his ability to win the one-on-ones. Shouldn't be in our sides. Zak Butters, if you want to get a real detailed look on what I reckon, I did a video, maybe a couple of days ago. It's probably only 3 or 4 videos back, but I compared Butters, Bolton, Tom Phillips, and Goey. Just sort of gave a few stats, gave a few thoughts, and ranked those guys. Butters, I'm just a touch wary on his scoring mechanisms. He's not a big contested ball player. He's probably not an enormous centre bounce player. I think he'll get increased time in the midfield, and I think he'll be a guy that increases his numbers, put it that way. But I'm just not sure if he's going to average 92 or 98. And I really do think there's, and if it's 98, he's a good selection. If it's 92, it's a bit lukewarm. Don't know, So I'm happy to just watch on from the sidelines. In fact, a guy that I probably prefer only just is Shai Bolton. Now, he's in a few less teams, but I probably see him having a more defined role in the midfield. He attended 92% of the Tigers' centre bounces when they had their pracky game. It's not always going to be that high, but it's an indication that they like what he does in there. So I probably see Bolton averaging more than Butters, but there probably is a bit more rage about Butters, so it's quite interesting. Heeney, there's no shying away that I am a massive fan of his ability. I had him really well in my side early on, predicting some more midfield time, but I don't know, why does he keep playing forward? Why, John? What are you doing to me, mate? I really think that he has the ability to average, in that mid-90s range, but I'm happy to pick him up throughout the year. He is tempting, don't get me wrong, and particularly with the lack of options, but it just worries me, It just worries me. I think that average of 94, if you look at the numbers, I'm pretty sure he had one really big game, and he actually had a few sort of mediocre scores. So even though 94 suggests a bit of reliability, it actually wasn't. Without getting off on a tangent, let me just sort of see if I can highlight that for you, because he's been in and around that early 90s, mid 90s for ages. Or even high 90s, I should say. But this one was different, I feel, if my memory serves me correct. So there you go. He had a 152 and a 123. 60, meh. 64, yikes. 79, meh. 86, I guess I'll take it. So it wasn't super impressive. So just keep that in mind. Toby Greene, I've actually got him as a little smoky for the Coleman, to be honest. I reckon he could put a few snags through, but he's just about a permanent forward these days, isn't he? So he is such a good link man and such a smart footballer that he finds a way to score points. But I am just not that interested. I'm just not that interested. I think he's probably going to end up averaging around that 90 mark, but yeah, I don't think we should be contemplating him. I think there's better options that are cheaper, and I just don't see him being a keeper, to be honest, a top 6 or top 8 forward. As we work our way down to Jordan De Goey, and like I said, he was in my Versus series. I discussed him, and I am quite a fan of him. I feel as if midfield time is clearly a big option for him. He'll always have those moments where he plays forward and the Pies see an opportunity to exploit the back line with his ability as a dynamic forward, but I think there'll be more and more mid-time, and he showed what he could do in the Pracky game, couldn't he? Not that we always need to get sucked into practice games, but I think the signs are there. The opportunity we know is there at Collingwood, so I understand the selection, and he's probably a good example when I reference Heeney and Greene. De Goey's probably a good example of someone cheaper that I think could do just as good or perhaps better. Tom Papley, he's in 2% of sides. I'll keep my promise. He's in 2% of sides. I'll talk about him, but it's a straight up no. It's about as simple as that. Jack Higgins, look, it's a no, but wouldn't shock me if he averages in the 90s. His junior numbers were off the charts. He has a knack of finding the ball. He's very clever, scoring chains. I think if he gets a good high half forward role with the occasional stoppage every now and then, I'm not putting it past him to average really nicely. I would not have the cojones to pick him, but not a bad little option, particularly for your SuperCoach draft. Dan Butler, 2% of sides. You either love his goal-kicking ability or his mullet, but neither will do you good enough in SuperCoach, so we're going to have to keep scrolling there. Tom Phillips, again, a really interesting character and has really seen a massive rise in his numbers, but just remember that he's never done it before. So I know we've seen him play good footy before, but he's never been a premium. He averaged 90 as a midfielder, and now he's available as a forward, so it makes him a little interesting. But I'm quite happy to just steer clear on this one. Just note that even though he dominated the practice game for Hawthorn, there was no Mitchell, there was no O'Meara, there was no Chad Wingard. And all those guys will have pretty solid centre bounce numbers. So I do see Phillips as more of a wingman, where he played a lot of centre bounce in the pracky. So just keep those things in mind. I am quite happy to just see how he goes. Yeah, I just haven't felt the need to go with him at any stage. Isaac Smith I touched on in the mids. It's just a straight up no. Charlie Cameron with the 3% of sides. He's an exciting player. He's great to watch, but he'll have you tearing your hair out in SuperCoach. Zac Fisher, look, all the talk is he came back looking buffed and ready, but again, he's not one for our sides. I think he's kind of destined for that forward line role, which all the talk is he's embraced it, but he doesn't love it. I think I'd like to think one day Zac Fisher could play midfield, and I'd like to think that one day he might be an option, but that day is not today. That is for sure. Jeremy Cameron in 9% of sides. There's a bit of forward line hype here, isn't there? We're getting excited about Butler, Papley, Cameron, Charlie and Jeremy, but none of these guys should be in your team. They're exciting. They'll have days where they score 150. They have a day out and just dine in with some goals, but more or less it'll be a roller coaster ride that I don't want to be tall enough for. I definitely don't want to be boarding that one, so I'm off. Who else we got here? Connor Rozee. Well, he's in the 2% of size, but he tore up the game, and then he's gone and had surgery on his foot. So, gosh, he was really one that I would have contemplated heavily. But, of course, now, we don't even have much clarity on how the surgery went. Has he had it? I presume he has. Of course he would have, but how's he sort of going? I've got no idea. I was looking at an article yesterday, or looking for one, and I couldn't find one. So, got to rule him out of our teams. Again, Tom Lynch, we've got some just sort of hype key forward factor in there, not for your SuperCoach side. Jamie Elliott, again, a little bit of excitement. He does get a few midfield minutes. They like him in the centre bounce. He's got the pace. He's quite explosive at times, but he's been around for ages and he's never really averaged that well. At times he's in the 80s and whatnot, but nah, definitely not, guys. Definitely not. 5% of teams is Jaidyn Stephenson, and it's a big no for me. I think there's a lot to like about North Melbourne, particularly through the middle for both SuperCoach and in general. I think they will show some improvement, but Stephenson is not one that I've contemplated at any point, really. I think he'll play more forward than maybe we think. I feel as if people are hopeful that he'll play a bit more midfield, but there's actually a lot of mids in there for North Melbourne, a lot of young up-and-comers, and Stephenson will feature in there, there's no doubt about it, but he's just an inconsistent type. I'm yet to see his ability to win lots of the ball. Historically, he goes missing. He'll kick 2 in 10 minutes, and then we won't see him for 15 minutes. He's just that type of player. He's more of an impact type rather than consistently being in the game. And I still see, look at North Melbourne's forward line. It's pretty trash. They need a guy with that make something out of nothing ability. And Stephenson is that guy, but he shouldn't be the guy for your SuperCoach side. Now, Jye Caldwell, I've been sort of back and forth on this fella and this selection. Probably at times I hadn't done enough research on him. And once I did, I really liked what I read. And I liked, more importantly, what I saw in the Pracky game. That was a lot of centre bounces, a happy knack to find the ball, and a real defined role in the midfield. That's, I think, like a lot of these forwards we talk about, and a lot of the discussion is, where's their primary position? Are they playing 70% forward, 30 mid, 50-50, 40-60? What is it? Well, I think Caldwell, from all we can see, he's come to the club looking for midfield time, and he's going to get it. So I really like that. Super talent. He's in my team, and I'm happy with it. I'm really interested to see how he goes. So, and clearly quite a few others are too. I mentioned Jye in the back line. I've got no idea why he's in 2% of sides, but we're sort of getting to the end of it now. Can I just say Nick Hind, 1% of teams. It wouldn't shock me if he averaged 90. Now, you're probably going, what the fuck, Shorty? What are you talking about, mate? No Adam Sard. I reckon from what I saw in the Pracky game, halfback role, a license to take it on, it wouldn't shock me. Just wouldn't shock me. Max King, come on. How do you get hit in the head with a golf ball playing golf? Now, I've played golf with a lot of shit golfers. I am a shit golfer. Yeah, just get the hell out of the way, don't you? Like, unless some guy has smoked at 250 and Big Max King hasn't even been looking, but I presume that he's just spat it out at right angles and hit his noggin. Well, come on. If we all know, if you're playing with some dodgy golfer, you don't line up in line with them. All right, I'm standing behind him. And that is a savage blow for the Saints. Josh Jenkins in 2% side. What is going on there? If Geelong play him on the weekend, I'll lose my bloody mind. I really will. He's the slowest prick going round. Stick to radio, Josh. Oh my God, that's why I've got Sam De Koning in there, because I want De Koning to be our relief ruckman. Preference the youth cats, for God's sake. God, if they play Jenkins, I'll just lose my mind. Nick Blakey, I actually think is a real talent. I think I mentioned him in the midfield video, but definitely see a big spike in his numbers, but I don't see a need to start him in your side. But definitely a player on the up. I really love his left foot. We're just about rocking and rolling to the real interesting mid-price section. Ben King, 2% of sides. I'm not even going to timestamp that. Come on. Madness. Tom Atkins, I think a few people will be getting excited about that new role. And just the way he played such attacking and accumulating footy. But, nah, I don't think so. He's not for me. I think, there's far better options, as we'll mention in a moment, that are cheaper. And there's just, it's one game. I wouldn't be surprised if there's times throughout the year where he does play forward. He does get thrown around. At the moment, he's playing quite a scoring-friendly role, but I wouldn't expect it to continue or deliver the numbers that we saw in the Pracky match all the time. So, too much up in the air for mine. And I think we'll now probably get to the real interesting stuff, I'm guessing. Orazio Fantasia. No. I don't know why he's in 20% of sides. I have him as one of my SuperCoach traps. You can check out that video if you want. Oh, nearly knocked my microphone off. He's so injury prone. He's going to have an inconsistent role. And like I've sort of mentioned with some other guys, look, he's cheap, of course, but he's every chance to just play 3 games, then do an injury. Or he's every chance to score 112, 122, then 54, then 47. So it's going to be a roller coaster. All the best to you if you go with him, but he's not a guy that I've thought about once for my side. Then we've got Jack Zeeble, and I won't spend too much time on him because I think he's an absolute lock. I think the role he's playing, very friendly, and I think he's just a guy that is going to be an easy watch, the opposite to Fantasia. I think he's probably not going to give you too many 120 scores, but I think he'll consistently be 82, 94, 79, 106, you know what I mean? I think he's just going to have a nice easy ride there and just consistently make us coin while contributing to our forward line. So it's understandable why there's so many people selecting him. Joey Danaher, I have had him in my team. He's still in my calculations if I want to pull a certain trigger. If the backline rookies can't come through for me, there is a scenario where I go an extra premium in the backline. There's a few things I'd have to throw around. But look, I think he is definitely going to have some more inconsistencies than, say, a Zeeble, just the nature of his position. But I do think he's going to be a good selection. You just hope that his body holds up, to be fair. That's probably the main issue. And Impey, I have done a video where I talked about Zeeble, Danaher, Impey, and Dow, and I had Impey ranked 4th, and nothing's changed. I just don't think he's ever shown an ability to score super well. Even when he has played a little bit of halfback flank, I definitely preference some others. And like I said before, a solid option, and if he was the only one around that price range, you'd probably consider him strongly. But the fact is we've got quite a few others, so it's a no thanks for me. And Dow, we'll finally touch on him, the last one of this video. Massive fan. I was pleased with what I saw in the Pracky game, so I don't lose any faith. He'll be in my side. I think he'll get some good midfield time, and I think he'll maybe not an absolute breakout year, but I think he'll establish himself in the best 22. He'll have some breakout games, and I'd just be happy if he can average in the 80s. That'd be a fantastic result. So that's a wrap. That is a wrap. We've covered off on all the forwards. Hopefully, you've taken something out of this video. I have time-stamped it. Hopefully, you've realise that by the time you got to this mark of the video. But yeah, I appreciate your support. And, you know, I've been churning out a lot of videos, so hopefully it hasn't been video overload. Hopefully you're still getting a chance to view them and that type of thing. But I've been stoked with the numbers and the support from existing subscribers, new subscribers. So we're so close now to the first bounce. It's been a whopping pre-season, so I'm looking forward to getting into it. So stay tuned for, you know, we'll look at the relevant rucks. And yeah, there's a couple other videos that I'll also do. And of course, a team reveal, which, you know, will be largely dependent on these teams. So I'm looking forward to that. But thanks again, and I'll catch you soon. Cheers.